Going on a side quest in a video game is pretty simple business. You find an NPC in trouble, they give you your objective, and then you complete it for some experience and a nice reward. However, sometimes game developers don't like to play it so straight with you. The quest might start off simple, but it quickly and unexpectedly develops into something far more complex. There's no greater surprise than a relatively straightforward quest you embark on, thinking it'll be a quick distraction, only to discover it's actually a long, convoluted, and utterly ridiculous chain of events that spirals into complete insanity. Now, I do apologize for my voice, but I think we can all agree that the way these simple video game quests got convoluted was absolutely sick. I'm Jess from WhatCulture, and here are 10 deceptively simple video game quests that went bad quick. Number 10, Epsilon Program, Grand Theft Auto 5. Just like Grand Theft Auto 4, GTA 5 features its very own interactive internet. The player can browse through a variety of websites, and in some cases, what they do on a specific website can have actual consequences in the real world. For example, taking a simple quiz can result in Michael joining a cult. Yep, by going on the website of the so-called Epsilon program and taking their identity evaluation program, the player can start a chain of missions in which Michael joins and then slowly ascends up the ranks of the most influential and ridiculous cult in Los Santos. Though the missions begin relatively simple, with a few purchases and small tests of Michael's faith, it doesn't take long for things to escalate. As Michael reaches new levels of paradigms, his fellow cult members demand more outrageous things out of him, including delivering shady goods on an airplane and running 5 full miles in the desert. Oh, and of course, before each trial, you're required to make hefty donations to your new church. Perhaps it's not such a good idea to join random cults on the internet after all. Number 9, Come Fly With Me, Fallout New Vegas. Even without the Wild Wasteland perk, Fallout New Vegas is full of ridiculous concepts. Roman legionaries, Elvis impersonators, and, of course, a giant computer screen man using a casino chip to activate an army of robots. This said, all the things mentioned above are stuff you expect to be in the game. What you don't expect, however, is to run into a religious cult of astronauts while exploring a ghoul-riddled plant. The mission Come Fly With Me is a quest that gets only more ridiculous as it goes on. In the beginning, it looks like a standard cleanup operation. You're tasked with ridding a pre-war test site of feral ghouls. That's it. However, as you go deeper into the facility, you realize feral ghouls aren't its only residents. The plant is also occupied by a cult of ghouls who seek to assemble rocket ships to flee Earth, and a group of super mutants who want to kill the ghouls to steal their stash of stealth boys. So naturally, you become a mediator in the mutant-ghoul conflict and launch a bunch of cultists into space. Was this outcome predictable? Not really, but you should have expected things wouldn't be so simple. This is New Vegas after all. Number 8, Secrets of Cats, Judgment. Judgment is a spin-off of the Yakuza series in which you play as a brooding private detective named Takayuki Yagami, trying to infiltrate the dark criminal underbelly of Kamurocho, Tokyo. The game usually revolves around Yagami looking into murder cases or getting into Yakuza-style fights with random criminals. However, there's one mission that involves a more light-hearted task, the search for a missing cat. Or so the game would have you believe. Although the mission starts with a random citizen asking you to help him find his prized cat, the case goes off the rails pretty quickly. You see, after Yagami follows the cat into a mall, he gets attacked by an armed drone. It turns out the detective isn't the only one searching for the missing pet. There's also a whole catnapping cartel trying to get their hands on it to use it for their own nefarious and cat-related crimes. This is where the mission turns into a series of gang fights and an arms race as you and the gangsters pit your weaponized drones against each other. It sounds pretty excessive, but then again, all's fair in war and cat rescues. Number 7, Skellige'S Most Wanted, Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 likes to test the player's morality at every step of the way. However, the mission Skellige'S Most Wanted does this in the most sudden and unexpected way possible. The mission starts off like any typical Witcher job. Geralt is hired to get rid of some neckers and goes to investigate a recently attacked horse wagon. At the scene of the attack, he finds a trail of footprints, but when he decides to follow them, instead of the neckers, he finds a pair of boots made out of a necker's feet. Combined with a few other clues found along the way, it quickly becomes clear that the attacks were all a hoax, and someone is out to get you. However, things are only starting to get weird. When Geralt finally confronts the perpetrators, they all turn out to be monsters. They explain that they banded together to trap Geralt and judge him for his crimes against all of monster kind. Depending on how sympathetic you were to monsters in the past, the encounter will either end with the monsters sparing you or attacking you all at once. It's a truly bizarre moment of judgment that you'd never expect from such a seemingly simple mission. Number 6. Make spacesuits, won't travel. Outer Worlds. Make Spacesuits Won't Travel is a side mission in Outer Worlds, in which your character helps a Byzantium fashion designer, Celeste Jolicoeur, create the newest hotness for her fellow upper-class citizens. It sounds simple and innocent enough, but the tricky part here is that Celeste has a very specific vision of her outfit. She wishes to combine the different styles of people from all over Terra 2, meaning you have to do a lot of traveling across planets to get samples, read clothes taken from corpses, for her. This is where you realize your designer friend might need more than just a quick favor, and indeed when you bring the requested samples to Celeste, she'll immediately ask you to travel to more locations to gather some more materials. But all this work has to amount to something, right? Surely Celeste's new outfit will be breathtaking. Well, sort of. You see, after you bring Celeste her items and wait for her to finish her new design, the next time you meet her, all you'll find is a dead corpse and 2 guards. They explain that Celeste was killed because her outfit was deemed, quote, too fashionable. Jeez, fashion's really a cutthroat business, hey? Number 5. Protecting Romani Ranch. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Compared to Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask setting is definitely darker and more unsettling. The whole world is on the brink of destruction, and even if you try and take your mind off the falling moon staring at you from above, the rest of Termina isn't really any less disturbing. Even a place as serene as Romani's ranch holds dark secrets. Its owner, a young girl named Romani, is constantly dealing with thieves taking away her precious cows. The girl believes the culprits to be aliens, and while everyone seems to disregard her theory as paranoid speculation, you can still help her and watch over her cattle for the night. It's easy to disregard Romani's alien theory and expect the mission to end with you fending off a bunch of bandits at best. However, at night, the ranch does get visited by something extraterrestrial. Floating in the air with bright yellow eyes, the ghost-like aliens swarm the ranch and quickly turn a simple defense mission into a scenario straight out of a horror story. Worst of all, failing to fend them off will result in Romani getting abducted and then brainwashed. The next time you meet her, she'll mumble to herself and barely acknowledge your existence. See? That's why you listen to your friends. Number 4. The Secret of CABOT House. Fallout 4. The Secret of CABOT House is possibly one of the strangest and most intriguing side quests in the entire Fallout series. Not because it's outwardly crazy, not because it's written in some elaborate and intricate way, but simply because, despite starting off as a simple mercenary job, it turns into a Lovecraftian horror story. The series of quests connected to the CABOT family begins with you being scouted by one of their men. He asks you to deliver a simple package for his employer, the mysterious Jack Cabot, and this sets off a chain of wild and increasingly disturbing events. It turns out that Jack and his family are immortal, and the package you are delivering is a serum that helps them maintain their eternal youth. Furthermore, the serum is made out of Jack's father's blood, who discovered a strange alien artifact before the Great War. The artifact fused with him, turning him into an immortal and immensely powerful psychic. Though Jack keeps his father in containment, he eventually breaks out of it, and you, the trusty courier, are tasked with stopping this godlike mind-controlling monster. Maybe the Mojave courier didn't have it so bad after all. Number 3. One really, really bad day. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The ancient Greece of Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a pretty bizarre place filled with mythical beasts and supernatural events. And yet the strangest thing you'll ever experience in the game has nothing to do with magical monsters. It's just a little bit of bad luck. In the side quest, One Really, Really Bad Day, the Eagle Bearer attempts to help a small village protect itself from a pirate raid. At first glance, it's nothing out of the ordinary, just your typical hero stuff. However, what you don't realize is that it's just not your character's day. For some reason, everything they do goes horribly wrong. Instead of helping the villagers, they only get them into more trouble. The pirates they preemptively attack turn out to be the village reinforcement. The village blacksmith they help get back to work trips and impales himself on his tools. And a woman they deliver a horse to rides off a cliff, thinking her new steed can turn into a Pegasus. Like the Midas of failure, everything your character touches turns into a train wreck. But on the other hand, their shortcomings make for an absolutely hilarious spectacle. After all, who doesn't love a good train wreck? Number 2, A Night to Remember, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. The Daedric princes of the Elder Scrolls are admittedly a pretty fun bunch. Those who aren't trying to kill you and manipulate you use you for their own twisted amusement instead. The Daedric prince of debauchery and pleasure, Sanguine, definitely brings to the latter category, as evidenced by his quest in Skyrim, A Night to Remember. The quest starts off simple enough. As you enter into one of Skyrim's many inns, you come across a friendly patron who challenges you to a drinking contest. The man has you drink yourself into a stupor, and when you regain your consciousness, you find yourself on the other side of the map with no memories of what happened last night. From that moment on, the quest turns into you following the trail of chaos you've left behind and piecing together what exactly happened. On your way, you find out you stole a goat, traded with a giant, and even attempted to marry a hagraven. The trail finally leads you to your mysterious bar friend, who turns out to be Sanguine in disguise. The Daedric prince congratulates you for being a great source of entertainment and rewards you with his stuff. I mean, at least he pays well. Number 1. Geology for Beginners, Red Dead Redemption 2. As the name might suggest, the stranger missions in Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2 tend to be quite, well, strange. The people Arthur Morgan and John Marston come across usually have a few screws loose and have the cowboys do really questionable things for them. That said, the craziest mission in the entire Red Dead Redemption series starts off surprisingly innocent, with an odd-looking but otherwise ordinary man named Francis Sinclair asking Arthur and/or John to find some rock carvings for him. Despite his birthmark and conspicuous clothing, Francis's request sounds relatively normal, except the moment you find your first rock carving, you realize something is off. The carvings portray things that don't belong in the century you're supposed to be in, including stuff like the pyramids, skyscrapers, and even a symbol of the atom. When you mail all the carvings locations to Francis, he'll send you a letter asking you to visit him 2 days later. And when you do, Francis is nowhere to be seen. Instead, you meet a woman holding a baby with a very familiar birthmark, whose name turns out to be, you guessed it, Francis. Yep. The entire time you were helping a time traveler. Hopefully you didn't help him create a universe-breaking time paradox. That's the end of our list. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Do let me know in that comment box if you can think of any other deceptively simple video game quests that turned out to be very complicated. As always, I've been Jess from WhatCulture. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and make sure you stay tuned to us here for plenty more great gaming lists.